She didn't mean to touch him there. But her hand landed anyway. And the room stopped breathing. Not in shock. In fear. Because the man she had just accidentally caressed was not someone people touched by mistake. He was the kind of man whose name emptied rooms. Whose silence ended futures. Whose patience had limits no one dared to test. If you saw someone's entire life change in one accidental second, would you look away or keep watching? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. Her knees were still pressed against cold marble. Her palms still burning from where it had landed. Down there. On him. She wanted to pull away. Her body screamed at her to move. But his hand closed around her wrist before she could. Not rough. Not gentle. Final. Don't move, he said quietly. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Every man in that hallway heard it anyway. And every single one of them looked away. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't do anything except kneel there with her hand trapped in his and her heart slamming against her ribs like it was trying to escape her chest. He looked down at her slowly. Dark eyes. Sharp suit. Tattoos crawling up his neck like warnings written in ink. A face that belonged in stories that ended badly. You touched me, he said calmly. She opened her mouth. No sound came out. He tilted his head slightly. Studying her. Like she was something he hadn't expected to find. Do it again, he said. Her breath collapsed. A pause. Long enough for her to realize he wasn't joking. In private. The words hit her like a door slamming shut. Like the moment you realize you've walked into a room you can't leave. Her life split in two right there. Before this moment. And whatever came after. She hadn't meant to be here. Hadn't meant to end up kneeling in front of the most dangerous man in the city with her hand where it absolutely should not have been. She was supposed to pour drinks. Nothing more. One night. One envelope of cash. Enough to get her closer to disappearing for good. That was the plan. But plans don't survive moments like this. She needed the money. Desperately. The kind of desperation that makes you ignore warnings. That makes you walk into places you know you shouldn't. That makes you say yes when every instinct is screaming no. Her brother left her with debt. The kind that doesn't go away. The kind that follows you. That knocks on your door at 3 in the morning. That makes promises about what happens if you don't pay. So she took the job. Wore the black dress. Kept her head down. Told herself she'd be invisible. But you can't be invisible when you're kneeling on marble with your hand on a man who owns half the city. He still hadn't let go of her wrist. His grip wasn't painful. That was worse somehow. It was controlled. Patient. Like he had all the time in the world and she had none. Stand up, he said. She did. Her legs shook. She prayed he didn't notice. He noticed everything. The hallway was lined with men in expensive suits. Armed. Silent. Watching. None of them moved. None of them spoke. They just stood there like statues built to witness consequences. She tried to speak. I'm sorry. It was an accident. I didn't mean. Accidents, he interrupted softly, are when people stop pretending. She didn't know what that meant. Didn't want to know. He released her wrist. She thought that meant freedom. She was wrong. Name, he said. She gave him the fake one. The safe one. The name she used when she didn't want to be found. He smiled. Not kind. Not cruel. Interested. Good, he said. Because you belong to me for the rest of the night. Her stomach dropped. She should have run. Should have bolted for the elevator. Should have screamed. Should have done anything except stand there frozen while her brain tried to catch up with what was happening. But her feet wouldn't move. Her voice wouldn't work. And somewhere deep in her chest, a horrible realization was forming. No one was coming to help her. Not the men lining the walls. Not the security cameras watching from the corners. Not the world outside that had no idea she was here. She was alone. Completely alone. With a man who could make people vanish with a phone call. "Follow me," he said. It wasn't a request. He turned and walked down the hallway. Slow. Confident. Like he knew she would follow. Like there was never any question. And God help her, she did. Because running meant questions. Running meant attention. Running meant men in suits finding her later when she was alone and unprotected. So she walked. One step. Then another. Her heels clicking against marble that probably cost more than her entire life. The hallway stretched forever. Gold edges. Paintings that looked older than countries. Silence so thick it felt like drowning. He didn't look back. Didn't check if she was keeping up. He just walked like he owned the air itself. And maybe he did. She'd heard stories about him. Everyone had. The kind of stories people whispered when they thought no one was listening. About territories. About loyalty. About what happened to people who crossed him. She'd never believed them. Not really. Stories get exaggerated. Fear makes monsters out of men. But walking behind him now, watching the way every person they passed went rigid with respect or terror or both, she realized something. The stories weren't exaggerated enough. They reached a set of double doors at the end of the hallway. Dark wood. Carved with details she couldn't focus on because her heart was too loud in her ears. He pushed them open. And that's when she heard it. The sound behind her. Quiet. Mechanical. Final. The doors she'd walked through minutes ago. The ones leading back to the elevator. Back to the world. Back to escape. They locked. Heavy. Absolute. The kind of sound that means there's no going back. She turned her head just enough to see them. Sealed shut. Guards on either side. Expressionless. When she looked forward again, he was watching her. Standing in the doorway. Waiting. Coming, he asked. It wasn't really a question. She stepped through the doors. And they closed behind her too. 10 minutes earlier, she was still invisible. 10 minutes earlier, she could still walk away. 10 minutes earlier, her biggest problem was rent. Now her biggest problem was survival. The palazzo didn't announce itself. It didn't need to. Buildings like this existed in a different world. A world where marble floors reflected chandeliers that cost more than houses. Where silence wasn't peaceful. It was calculated. She stood outside the entrance, staring at gold-trimmed doors that looked like they weighed more than her car. Her phone buzzed. A text. Just a number. No name. You're late. 5th floor. Black dress only. Cash on exit. Don't speak unless spoken to. She read it twice. Her thumb hovered over the delete button. She could leave. Right now. Turn around. Go home. Figure something else out. Except there was nothing else to figure out. The debt didn't care about her fear. The men who came to her door last week didn't care that she was trying. They cared about money. And they cared about timelines. 2 weeks. That's what they gave her. 2 weeks or they'd start taking things that weren't money. So she pushed through the gold doors. The cold hit her first. Not temperature. Atmosphere. The kind of cold that comes from power. From people who don't need to raise their voices because everyone already listens. The lobby stretched up 3 stories. Marble everywhere. White. Spotless. Like even dust was afraid to settle here. Men in black suits lined the walls. Not standing casually. Standing like soldiers. Eyes forward. Hands folded. Earpieces in. Every single one of them looked like they could break her in half without breaking a sweat. She kept her head down and walked toward the elevator. Her heels clicked too loud. Every step echoed. She felt exposed. Like a spotlight was following her even though the lighting was dim and golden and expensive. A man near the elevator looked at her. Just a glance. But it felt like being scanned. Like he memorized her face in half a second and decided whether she was a threat. She wasn't. Obviously. She was just a girl in a black dress who needed money. But he didn't look away. Not immediately. And that made her skin crawl. She pressed the button for the 5th floor. The elevator doors slid shut. Smooth. Silent. The kind of silence that costs money. She exhaled. For 5 seconds, she was alone. She checked her reflection in the polished steel doors. Black dress. Simple. No jewelry. Hair pulled back. She looked like she belonged in the background. That was the goal. Pour drinks. Collect cash. Leave. Easy. Except nothing about this place felt easy. Her brother used to say she worried too much. That fear was just her brain lying to her. That most of the time, the thing you're scared of never happens. He was wrong. He died 3 months ago. And the thing she was scared of happened exactly the way she thought it would. They said it was an accident. A fall. Wrong place. Wrong time. But she knew better. You don't accidentally fall when you owe people money. You get pushed. And now his debt was hers. The elevator hummed quietly. She watched the numbers climb. 3. 4. Her stomach tightened. Something felt wrong. Not dangerous. Just off. Like the air was too still. Like the world was holding its breath. She glanced up at the corner of the elevator. A camera. Red light blinking. Someone was watching. She told herself that was normal. Buildings like this had security. Cameras everywhere. It didn't mean anything. But her hands were shaking anyway. The elevator slowed. 5th floor. The doors started to open. And that's when she felt it. A presence. Behind her. Close. She hadn't heard anyone get on. Hadn't heard the doors open on another floor. But someone was there. She didn't turn around. Didn't move. Just stood there frozen while every instinct screamed at her to run. The doors opened wider. A hallway. Long marble. Gold trim. Men standing at attention on both sides like this was a palace and not an office building. She stepped forward. And then the elevator jolted. Not hard. Just enough. Enough to make her stumble. Enough to throw off her balance. Enough to send her forward onto her knees. She gasped. Her hands shot out instinctively. Reaching for something. Anything. To catch herself. Her palm landed on fabric. Expensive fabric. A suit. And then lower. She realized too late. Way too late. Her hand was on him. Down there. Time stopped. Not in a poetic way. In a suffocating way. Like the air was sucked out of the building. Like every person on that floor felt it happen. She looked up slowly. Dark eyes. Sharp jaw. Tattoos crawling up his neck. A face carved from stone and control. The Mafia boss. The man people whispered about in parking lots and grocery stores and anywhere they thought he couldn't hear. The man who owned this building. This city. This moment. And her hand was on him. She tried to pull away. Her body screamed at her to move. But his hand was faster. His fingers closed around her wrist. Firm. Final. Don't move, he said quietly. And the world collapsed. Her hand was still there. On him. She couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't do anything except kneel on cold marble with her palm pressed against expensive fabric and her brain screaming at her to fix this. But there was no fixing this. His grip on her wrist tightened. Just slightly. Just enough to remind her that he was in control. That he'd always been in control. That she'd walked into his world and touched him in a way no one touched him. Ever. You're shaking, he said quietly. His voice was calm. Too calm. Like he was commenting on weather. Like her terror was background noise. Why? He asked. She tried to speak. Her throat closed. No sound came out. He waited. Patient. Like he had all the time in the world and she had none. Her body knew danger before her mind caught up. That's how fear works. Your heart starts racing before you understand why. Your hands start shaking before you know what you're afraid of. Right now, her body was screaming. Because the man staring down at her wasn't just powerful. He was the kind of powerful that didn't need to prove itself. The kind that made rooms go quiet. That made grown men look away. And she just put her hand on him. Down there. I'm sorry, she finally whispered. Her voice cracked. It was an accident. He tilted his head slightly. Studying her. Like she was a puzzle he hadn't expected to find. An accident, he repeated slowly. She nodded. Too fast. Too desperate. Yes. I lost my balance. The elevator, it jolted. I didn't mean to, I would never. Accidents, he interrupted softly, are when people stop pretending. She didn't understand. Didn't want to understand. She just wanted him to let go. To let her leave. To forget this ever happened. But his grip didn't loosen. The elevator doors were still open. She could see the hallway beyond. Could see men in suits frozen in place. Staring. Not at her. At him. Waiting. For what, she didn't know. An order. A signal. Permission to move. No one intervened. No one stepped forward. No one said a word. Because no one dared. Have you ever been so afraid that even breathing felt like a mistake? Some people live that way every day. She was living it right now. Her wrist burned where his fingers held her. Not from pain. From the weight of what this moment meant. She'd crossed a line. A line people didn't cross. A line that separated the living from the forgotten. Please, she whispered. I didn't know you were, I didn't see. You didn't see me, he said quietly. In an elevator. Alone with you. He let that sink in. She realized what he was saying. That she should have known. That she should have felt him there. That walking into an elevator without looking was careless. And careless meant stupid. And stupid got people killed. I'm sorry, she said again. Louder this time. Desperate. I'll leave. I'll go. You'll never see me again. I promise. He smiled. Not kind. Not cruel. Curious. You think you can leave? It wasn't a question. Her stomach dropped. She stopped. Started again. I just came to work. To pour drinks. That's all. I'm nobody. I don't know anything. I'm not. You're shaking, he said again. This time it sounded like an observation. Like he was filing it away. Remembering it. She hated that. Hated that her fear was visible. That she couldn't control it. That her body was betraying her. Let me go, she said quietly. Please. He looked at her for a long time. Long enough for her to notice details she didn't want to notice. The tattoos on his neck weren't random. They were deliberate. A serpent. Wings. Something written in a language she didn't recognize. His suit was perfect. Tailored. Expensive. The kind of expensive that didn't need logos. His hands were scarred. Faint lines across his knuckles. The kind of scars that came from hitting things. Or people. And his eyes. Dark. Unreadable. Like staring into a locked room and knowing something dangerous was inside. Stand up, he said. She hesitated. Now. She stood. Her legs shook. She prayed he didn't notice. He noticed everything. The hallway stretched out behind him. Men on both sides. Silent. Still. Like statues. Like they'd been carved into the walls and left there to watch. She wanted to scream. Wanted to run. Wanted to do anything except stand there with his hand still on her wrist and her future evaporating in real time. But screaming wouldn't help. Running wouldn't help. Nothing would help. Because she was alone. Completely alone. With a man who could erase her from existence with a phone call. No one was coming. Not the security she'd seen downstairs. Not the people who hired her. Not the world outside that had no idea she was here. She was on her own. And that realization hit harder than fear. You came here for money, he said. Not a question. A fact. She nodded. Desperate, he continued. Scared. But you came anyway. Another nod. Why? She didn't want to answer. Didn't want to give him anything. But her mouth moved before her brain could stop it. Debt, she whispered. His expression didn't change. But something flickered in his eyes. Recognition maybe. Or understanding. Your debt, he said slowly. Or someone else's. Her throat tightened. Does it matter? Yes. That one word carried weight. Like the answer would decide something. Something important. She swallowed hard. My brothers. He nodded slowly. Like that made sense. Like that explained everything. And where is your brother now? She didn't want to say it. Didn't want to give him that piece of her. But the words came anyway. Dead. The hallway went quieter. If that was possible. He stared at her. Not with pity. Not with sympathy. With something else. Something she couldn't name. So you're here, he said quietly, paying for a dead man's mistakes. She didn't respond. What could she say? That life wasn't fair. That she didn't have a choice. That desperation made people do things they'd never do otherwise. He already knew that. Interesting, he said softly. She didn't know what that meant. Didn't want to know. His thumb brushed against her wrist. Just once. Light. Almost gentle. Then he released her. She pulled her hand back fast. Too fast. Like she'd been burned. He watched her do it. Watched her cradle her wrist against her chest like it was injured even though he hadn't hurt her. Not physically. "Name," he said. His voice was calm. Controlled. But there was something underneath. Something that made her skin crawl. She gave him the fake one. The name she used when she didn't want to be found. When she needed to be someone else. Mia. He smiled again. Slow. Deliberate. "Mia," he repeated. Testing it. Like he knew it was a lie but didn't care. "Good." He stepped past her. Out of the elevator. Into the hallway. She didn't move. "Follow me, Mia," he said without turning around. It wasn't a request. She looked at the elevator. At the empty space behind her. At the escape route that didn't exist anymore. The doors started to close. She stepped forward. Into the hallway. Into his world. And the elevator doors shut behind her with a sound that felt like a coffin closing. She followed him because she had no choice. At least that's what she told herself. But deep down, in a place she didn't want to examine, she knew the truth. She could have run. Could have bolted for the stairs. Could have screamed. She didn't. Because running meant questions. Running meant attention. Running meant men in suits finding her later when she was alone and unprotected. So she walked. One step. Then another. Her heels clicking against marble that probably cost more than everything she owned. He didn't look back. Didn't check if she was keeping up. He just walked like he owned the air itself. And maybe he did. The hallway stretched forever. Gold trim. Paintings that looked older than countries. Silence so thick it felt like drowning. Men lined the walls. Every 10 feet. Standing at attention. Eyes forward. Hands folded. Earpieces in. Not one of them looked at her. Not one. She tried to meet someone's eyes. Anyone's. Just to feel human for a second. To feel like someone else existed in this nightmare. But they looked through her. Like she was already gone. Like she was already erased. That's when she understood. These men weren't avoiding her eyes out of respect. They were avoiding them out of fear. Fear of seeing something they'd have to forget. Fear of witnessing something they couldn't unsee. She was a ghost already. Her chest tightened. He turned a corner. She followed. Another hallway. Same marble. Same gold. Same silence. How big was this building? How far up did his world go? They passed a room with open doors. Inside, more men. A long table. Documents spread out. Someone was talking. Low. Controlled. The conversation stopped when he walked past. Complete silence. He didn't acknowledge them. Didn't slow down. Just kept walking. And the conversation didn't start again until he was gone. She realized something then. Something that made her stomach drop. He wasn't just powerful. He was the kind of powerful that stopped rooms. That made people hold their breath. That made the world pause. And she'd touched him. They reached an elevator. Different from the first. Private. No buttons. Just a keypad. He entered a code. The doors opened. He stepped inside. She hesitated. He looked at her. "You belong to me for the rest of the night." Her breath caught. Not a threat. A statement. Like he was telling her the sky was blue. Like it was fact. She stepped inside. The elevator doors closed. It was just the two of them. In a small space. With nowhere to go. She pressed herself against the back wall. As far from him as possible. He didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stood there watching the numbers climb. 6. 7. 8. Her mind raced. What did he want? Why was she here? What happened to girls who touched men like him? She didn't want to know the answer. The elevator stopped. Top floor. The doors opened. And her breath left her body. His office wasn't an office. It was a kingdom. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around 3 walls. The city spread out below like a map. Lights glittering. Streets tiny. People invisible. From up here, the world looked small. Manageable. Owned. The furniture was dark. Expensive. Leather and wood and metal. A desk that looked like it weighed a ton. Bookshelves lined with titles she couldn't read from here. A bar in the corner. Bottles that probably cost more than her rent. And silence. Always silence. He walked to the windows. Stood there with his hands in his pockets. Staring out at his city. She stayed by the elevator. Frozen. Sit, he said without turning around. There was a chair across from his desk. Leather. Dark. She walked to it slowly. Sat down. Her hands gripped the armrests. He turned around. Looked at her. Really looked at her. Like he was peeling back layers. Seeing things she didn't want him to see. You can leave, he said. Her heart jumped. What? You can leave, he repeated. Right now. Walk out. Go back to your life. Forget this happened. She stared at him. Waiting for the catch. Because there was always a catch. He walked to his desk. Leaned against it. Arms crossed. Watching her. But, he continued slowly, if you stay, you tell me the truth. There it was. The catch. What truth? She asked quietly. Everything, he said. Why you're here. Why you're desperate. Why you're scared. She shook her head. You don't want to know about me. I'm nobody. Nobody doesn't touch me and walk away, he said calmly. Nobody doesn't end up in my office at midnight. Nobody doesn't matter. His eyes didn't leave hers. So you're not nobody, he finished. You're something. And I want to know what. Her chest tightened. This was a test. It had to be. Some kind of game he played with people. To see if they'd lie. To see if they'd break. And if I leave, she asked. He shrugged. Then you leave. I don't chase. I don't beg. You walk out that door and you're free. She didn't believe him. Couldn't believe him. Men like him didn't let people go. Not after they'd seen too much. Not after they'd touched too much. Why? She asked. Why give me a choice? He smiled. Small. Almost real. Because I'm curious, he said. You touched me. You didn't faint. Didn't cry. Didn't beg. You looked me in the eye and apologized like you'd spilled coffee. He pushed off the desk. Walked closer. Not threatening. Just close. That's rare, he said quietly. And I collect rare things. Her pulse hammered. She should run. Should bolt for the elevator. Should take the out he was giving her. But something stopped her. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was the tiny, dangerous thought that maybe, just maybe, he could help. Or maybe it was something else. Something she didn't want to name. Curiosity. About him. About why he was giving her a choice. About what kind of man let someone go after they'd invaded his space. If I stay, she said slowly, and I tell you the truth, what happens then? He studied her. Then we'll see. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. She looked at the elevator. At freedom. At safety. At the life she knew. Then she looked at him. At danger. At the unknown. At the possibility of something different. Her brother used to say she was too careful. That she never took risks. That she lived life like she was afraid of it. He was right. But he was also dead. And being careful hadn't saved him. She took a breath. Let it out slowly. My name isn't Mia, she said quietly. He nodded. Like he already knew. It's Elena. Elena, he repeated. Testing it. Better. She gripped the armrests tighter. And I'm here because my brother died owing money to people who don't forget. His expression didn't change. But something flickered in his eyes. Interest. Recognition. Keep going, he said. So she did. She told him about her brother. About the gambling. About the loans he took from people he shouldn't have. About the night he didn't come home. She told him about the men who came to her door. About the threats. About the deadline. She told him about the debt. The amount. The timeline. The fear. And he listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't judge. Just stood there and listened like her words mattered. When she finished, the room was quiet again. He walked back to the windows. Stared out at the city. 2 weeks, he said finally. What? That's how long you have. To pay. She nodded. Yes. And how much have you made tonight? Her throat tightened. Nothing. I didn't even start working. I just touched me, he finished. She looked down. Ashamed. Terrified. Yes. He was quiet for a long time. Long enough for her to think maybe he was done. Maybe he'd heard enough. Maybe now came the part where he made her disappear. But then he spoke. Your brother, he said quietly. What was his name? Marcus. He turned around. Looked at her. Really looked at her. And something in his expression changed. Marcus Elena, he said slowly. East Side. Gambler. Owed money to the Volkov family. Her blood went cold. How do you know that? He didn't answer. Just stared at her like he was putting pieces together. Your brother didn't die by accident, he said finally. She stood up. Fast. I know. I've always known. No, he said. You don't know. You suspect. There's a difference. He walked toward her. Stopped a few feet away. I know, he said quietly. Because I was supposed to stop it. The room tilted. What? The order came through my territory, he said. And I said no. I don't kill gamblers. I don't kill desperate men. I collect debts. I don't collect lives. Her chest felt tight. Then why? Because someone disobeyed me, he said. His voice went cold. Hard. Someone in my organization decided my orders didn't matter. Decided they knew better. He stepped closer. And I've been tearing my world apart since, he said quietly, trying to find out who. Elena stared at him. Her mind couldn't process what he was saying. Couldn't process what it meant. You, she started. Stopped. You didn't kill my brother. No. But you know who did. I'm close. She didn't know what to feel. Relief. Anger. Confusion. All of it at once. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. He looked at her like the answer was obvious. "Because then you would have been afraid of me." And that's when she realized. He'd been protecting her. From the moment she touched him. From the moment she knelt at his feet and apologized. He'd been deciding whether she was innocent or involved. And he'd decided. She sat down. Not because he told her to. Because her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. And she began to tell him everything. She told him everything. Not because she trusted him. She didn't. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. She told him because she had nothing left to lose. And sometimes the truth is the only weapon you have left. "My brother was good," she started quietly. "Before everything. Before the gambling. Before the debts. He was the kind of person who remembered birthdays. Who called just to check in. Who made you feel like you mattered. He didn't interrupt. Just stood there by the window. Listening. But something changed," she continued. "About a year ago. He started staying out late. Started lying about where he'd been. Started borrowing money." Her throat tightened. She pushed through. "I didn't know how bad it was. Not until the men came to my door. 3 months ago. 2 days after his funeral." She remembered that night. The knock. The voices. The way they'd walked into her apartment like they owned it. "They said he owed them $50,000, she said. "And now I did." He still didn't speak. Didn't move. "I told them I didn't have it. That I was a waitress. That I could barely pay rent. They didn't care." Her hands shook. She clasped them together. "They said debt doesn't die with people. It transfers. Like some kind of disease." She looked up at him. His face was unreadable. But he was listening. Really listening. That was more than anyone else had done. "They gave me 2 weeks," she said. "To come up with the money. Or they'd start taking other things." "What things?" he asked quietly. She didn't want to answer. Didn't want to say it out loud. "Me," she whispered. The room went colder. His jaw tightened. Just slightly. But she saw it. "They said debt can be paid lots of ways," she continued. Her voice cracked. "And 50,000 was a lot. But I was young. Pretty enough. I could work it off." She hated how those words sounded. Hated that she was saying them to a stranger. Hated that this was her life now. "So I took every shift I could find," she said. "Sold everything worth selling. Borrowed from friends who didn't have anything to give. And I'm still 43,000 short." She laughed. It sounded broken. 43,000. Might as well be 1,000,000. Might as well be the moon. He turned around slowly. Looked at her. "And your brother," he said. "They told you it was an accident. It wasn't a question." "Yes," she said. "They said he fell. Wrong place. Wrong time. Bad luck. But you don't believe that." "No." "Why?" She met his eyes. "Because Marcus was terrified of heights. Wouldn't even stand near a balcony. And they're telling me he fell off a roof." She shook her head. "He was pushed. I know he was. But I can't prove it. And no one cares enough to look. Sometimes the people we fear most are fighting the same war. Don't scroll past this." He walked to his desk. Leaned against it. Arms crossed. Studying her. "Do you want revenge?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. She thought about it. Really thought about it. Did she want revenge? Did she want the people who killed Marcus to hurt the way she hurt? Did she want them to pay? No, she said finally. His eyebrow raised. Surprised. No. No, she repeated. Revenge won't bring him back. Won't pay the debt. Won't change anything. She looked down at her hands. I want freedom, she said quietly. I want to wake up and not be afraid. I want to walk down the street without looking over my shoulder. I want to live without someone owning me. She looked up at him. That's all I want, she said. Just freedom. He stared at her for a long time. Long enough for her to wonder if she'd said something wrong. If wanting freedom instead of revenge made her weak. Made her a coward. But then he smiled. Small. Real. That's rarer, he said quietly. What is? Someone who wants freedom more than revenge. He pushed off the desk. Walked closer. Stopped a few feet away. Most people come to me wanting blood, he said. Wanting payback. Wanting someone else to hurt as much as they do. His eyes didn't leave hers. But you, he continued. You just want to be left alone. She nodded. Is that wrong? No, he said. It's honest. Something shifted in the way he looked at her. Something she couldn't name. Like he was seeing her differently. Like she'd surprised him. And men like him didn't get surprised often. Your brother, he said slowly. Marcus. East Side. Gambler. Owed money to the Volkov family. Her heart stopped. How do you? I know because it went through my territory, he said. And I remember it because I said no. She stared at him. What? The order to kill him, he said calmly. It came to me. For approval. And I denied it. Her chest tightened. I don't understand. He walked to the window. Looked out at the city. I don't kill desperate men, he said quietly. I don't kill gamblers who made bad choices. I collect debts. I collect money. I don't collect lives. He turned around. So when the request came through, he continued, I said no. Extend the timeline. Let him work it off. Give him a chance. Her breath caught. Then why? Because someone disobeyed me, he said. His voice went cold. Hard. Dangerous. Someone in my organization decided my orders didn't matter. Decided they knew better. Decided they'd rather make an example than show mercy. She stood up slowly. Her legs felt weak. You're saying. I'm saying your brother was killed by someone who works for me, he said. Someone who went behind my back. Someone who's been hiding ever since. The room spun. But they told me, they said the Volkov family. The Volkov family contracts through me, he said. They don't move in this city without my say. So yes. Technically it was them. But the order came from inside. He stepped closer. And I've been tearing my empire apart since, he said quietly. Trying to find who did it. Elena couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what he was saying. Everything she believed. Everything she thought she knew. Wrong. You, she started. Her voice broke. You tried to save him. He didn't respond. Didn't need to. And someone killed him anyway, she whispered. Yes. Why didn't you tell me, she asked. When I touched you. When you brought me here. Why didn't you just say? Because then you would have been afraid of me, he said simply. She stared at him. I am afraid of you. No, he said. You're afraid of what I represent. Of the power. Of the world I live in. But you're not afraid of me. He was right. She realized it as he said it. She was terrified of his world. Of what he could do. Of what people like him were capable of. But she wasn't afraid of him. Not the man standing in front of her. Not the man who'd listened without interrupting. Not the man who tried to save her brother. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked quietly. He looked at her for a long time. Like he was deciding something. "Because you deserve to know the truth," he said finally. "And because I need your help." "My help?" "Yes." "I'm nobody," she said. "What could I possibly?" "You knew your brother," he interrupted. "You knew his habits. His friends. The places he went. The people he trusted." He stepped closer. "Whoever killed him knew him too," he said. "Knew his routine. Knew when he'd be alone. Knew how to make it look like an accident." Her stomach dropped. "You think someone close to him?" "I think someone close to him was close to me," he said. "And I need to know who." She backed up. Shook her head. "I can't. I don't know anything. I'm not." "You know more than you think," he said calmly. "And you want freedom." He let that sink in. "Help me find who killed your brother," he continued. "And I'll erase your debt. All of it. 50,000. Gone." Her heart hammered. "Why would you do that?" "Because someone betrayed me," he said. His voice went cold again. "And I don't forgive betrayal." He walked back to his desk. Opened a drawer. Pulled out a file. He set it on the desk. Pushed it toward her. "That's everything I know," he said. "About your brother's death. About the Volkov family. About the people involved." She stared at the file. Didn't move. "You can walk away," he said. "Right now. Take your chances with the debt. Try to survive the next 2 weeks." He looked at her. "Or you can help me," he said quietly. "And by helping me, help yourself." She looked at the file. At freedom. At answers. At the truth. Her hands shook as she reached for it. She opened it slowly. And the first thing she saw was a photo. Her brother. Smiling. Alive. Her chest ached. The second thing she saw was a list of names. People connected to the Volkov family. People who had access to the order. People who could have disobeyed. She scanned the list. Didn't recognize most of them. But then she saw one. A name she knew. A name that made her blood run cold. She looked up at him slowly. "I know this person." He leaned forward. "Who?" She pointed at the name. Her hand shook. "He was Marcus's friend," she whispered. "His best friend. They grew up together." His expression didn't change. But his eyes went sharp. Focused. "Are you sure?" "Yes," she said. "I met him dozens of times. He came to the funeral. He cried. He told me how sorry he was." Her voice cracked. "He looked me in the eye," she said, "and told me he wished he could have saved him." The room went silent. He stared at the name. Then at her. "Your brother's death," he said slowly. "I didn't order it. But I know who did." He tapped the name on the page. And Elena's world shattered all over again. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of living in a world that didn't make sense anymore. 3 weeks of working with him. Investigating. Searching. Digging through files and memories and lies. 3 weeks of watching him from across the room and wondering who he really was. Because he wasn't what she expected. He didn't touch her. Didn't cross lines. Didn't use his power the way men with power usually did. He kept his distance. Professional. Controlled. Like there were rules even he wouldn't break. And that confused her more than anything. She'd been living in his building. A guest room on the floor below his office. Safe. Protected. Hidden from the men who wanted their debt paid. He'd told her she could leave any time. That the door wasn't locked. That she wasn't a prisoner. But she stayed. Not because she was afraid to leave. But because she needed answers. Needed to know who killed Marcus. Needed to see this through. And maybe. Just maybe. Because she was starting to trust him. That thought terrified her. Tonight she found him in his office. Late. The city glowing below. He was standing at the window like always. Staring out at his kingdom. "Can I ask you something?" she said from the doorway. He turned. Nodded. "Always." She walked in slowly. Stopped a few feet away. "Why me?" she asked. He tilted his head. "What do you mean?" "You could have sent me away," she said. "That first night. After I touched you. After I told you about Marcus. You could have erased the debt and let me go." She looked at him. "But you didn't," she continued. "You kept me here. You involved me. You trusted me with information that could destroy you." She paused. "Why?" He was quiet for a long time. Thinking. Choosing his words carefully. "Because you touched me without wanting anything," he said finally. She frowned. "I don't understand." He walked to his desk. Leaned against it. Arms crossed. "Everyone who touches me wants something," he said quietly. "Money. Power. Protection. Favors. They touch me because they need something from me." His eyes met hers. "But you," he continued. "You touched me by accident. And the first thing you did was apologize. Not ask. Not beg. Apologize." He smiled slightly. "That's rare," he said. "In my world. Rare enough to notice." She didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know if it was a compliment or an observation or something else entirely. "And the debt?" she asked. "You're really going to erase it?" "I already did," he said simply. Her breath caught. "What?" "The Volkov family answers to me," he said. "I called them the day after you told me your brother's name. Told them the debt was paid. Told them you were under my protection." He pushed off the desk. "You've been free for 3 weeks," he said. "You just didn't know it." Elena stared at him. Her chest felt tight. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have left," he said. "And I needed you to stay. For the investigation." Yes. She should have been angry. Should have felt manipulated. Used. But she wasn't. Because he was right. If she'd known the debt was gone, she would have run. Would have disappeared. Would have tried to forget this whole nightmare. And she never would have learned the truth. "I've been tearing my empire apart," he said quietly. 4 months. Trying to find who disobeyed me. Who killed your brother. Who decided my orders didn't matter. He walked to the window. Stared out. "Do you know what it's like," he asked, "to realize someone you trust has been lying to you? Someone you gave power to. Someone you protected." His jaw tightened. "It's worse than betrayal," he said. "It's humiliation." She walked closer. Stood beside him. Looking out at the city. "You've been protecting me," she said softly. "This whole time." He didn't respond. "From the moment I touched you," she continued. "You could have killed me. Could have made me disappear. But you didn't. She looked at him. You protected me instead. He turned his head. Met her eyes. If I told you sooner, he said quietly, you'd have been afraid of me. I was afraid of you, she said. No, he replied. You were afraid of what I could do. Not who I was. He was right again. And she hated that he could read her so easily. The name in the file, she said, changing the subject. Marcus's best friend. Have you found him? His expression darkened. Not yet. He's been careful. Covering his tracks. Moving around. But you will find him. It wasn't a question. Yes, he said. I always find them. The certainty in his voice sent chills down her spine. Not from fear. From something else. Something darker. Justice. Or revenge. She wasn't sure which. And when you do? She asked quietly. He looked at her. Really looked at her. What do you want me to do? He asked. She didn't expect that. Didn't expect him to give her a choice. I don't know, she admitted. Do you want him dead? The question hung in the air between them. Heavy. Final. Did she want him dead? The man who killed her brother. Who looked her in the eye at the funeral and lied. Who pretended to grieve while hiding the truth. I want him to pay, she said finally. But I don't want more blood on my hands. He nodded slowly. Like he understood. Like he respected that. Then he'll pay another way, he said. She believed him. They stood there in silence. Side by side. Looking out at the city that never stopped moving. Can I ask you something else? She said. Yes. Do you regret it? Helping me? He turned to face her fully. No. Why not? Because you reminded me, he said quietly, that not everyone in my world is a monster. Her chest tightened. You're not a monster. He smiled. Sad. Tired. You don't know what I've done, he said. I know enough, she replied. I know you tried to save my brother. I know you're hunting the person who killed him. I know you erased my debt and kept me safe. She stepped closer. That's not a monster, she said firmly. That's someone trying to do the right thing. He stared at her. Something flickered in his eyes. Something vulnerable. Something human. You make it sound simple, he said. Maybe it is, she replied. Maybe we make it complicated because complicated feels safer than honest. He laughed. Quiet. Real. You're dangerous, he said. How? Because you make me want to believe you. They were close now. Closer than they'd been since that first night. Close enough for her to see the scar on his jaw. The exhaustion in his eyes. The weight he carried. Then believe me, she whispered. He reached up slowly. His hand hovering near her face. Not touching. Just there. If I cross this line, he said quietly, I can't protect you the same way. Can't stay objective. Can't. Then don't cross it, she interrupted. Not yet. Not until this is over. He lowered his hand. Nodded. Smart, he said. Practical, she corrected. But the air between them had changed. Charged. Electric. And they both felt it. His phone buzzed. He pulled it out. Read the message. His expression shifted. What is it? She asked. We found him, he said. Her heart stopped. Marcus's friend? Yes. Where? He looked at her. His eyes hard. Cold. The dangerous man returning. Hiding, he said. In a place he thought I'd never look. Where? He hesitated. Like he didn't want to tell her. Like he was protecting her from something. Tell me, she said firmly. He sighed. Your old apartment building. 3 floors up from where you used to live. The world tilted. He's been there the whole time, she whispered. Yes. Watching me. Yes. Her stomach turned. Why? Because he's not done, he said quietly. The debt was transferred to you. But he never expected you to survive this long. Never expected you to find protection. He stepped closer. He's been waiting, he said. For you to be alone. Vulnerable. So he could finish what he started. Elena's legs felt weak. She sat down hard. He was going to kill me too, she whispered. Yes. Why? What did I do? What did Marcus do? He knelt in front of her. Eye level. His hands on the armrests. Caging her in but not touching. That's what we're going to find out, he said. Tonight. You're going after him. We're going after him, he corrected. She shook her head. No. I can't. I can't see him. Can't face him. Yes you can, he said firmly. Because you're stronger than you think. And because you deserve to hear the truth from his mouth. She looked at him. At the man who'd protected her. Who'd believed her. Who'd torn his world apart trying to find justice for someone he'd never met. Why are you doing this, she asked. Really? Not for the betrayal. Not for your empire. Why do you care so much about my brother? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that changed everything. Because I couldn't save mine. Her breath caught. You had a brother? Yes. What happened? His jaw tightened. Someone betrayed him. Someone close. Someone he trusted. And I was too late to stop it. He stood up. Walked to the window. So when I see someone going through the same thing, he said quietly, I don't walk away. I can't. Elena stood. Walked to him. Stood beside him again. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be, he said. Just help me make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. She nodded. Okay. Okay. Yes. I'll come with you. I'll face him. I'll hear the truth. He looked at her. Proud. Grateful. Then let's go, he said. They walked to the elevator together. The doors opened. They stepped inside. And as the doors closed, Elena asked the question that had been burning in her chest since the moment she saw that name in the file. Why, she whispered. Why would he kill Marcus? They were best friends. The elevator descended. He looked at her. His expression dark. Because your brother found out something he wasn't supposed to know, he said quietly. About him. About what he was really doing. About who he really worked for. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. And the only way to keep a secret, he finished, is to bury everyone who knows it. They stepped out into the garage. His car waiting. Engine running. Then who killed my brother, she asked one more time. He opened the door for her. Looked her in the eye. Someone you've already met, he said. And her blood ran cold. She watched him burn his own empire. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Slowly. Methodically. Like pulling threads from a tapestry until the whole thing unraveled. It started the night they confronted Marcus's friend. The man who'd killed her brother. The man who'd looked her in the eye at the funeral and lied. The man who'd been hiding 3 floors above her old apartment, watching, waiting for his chance to finish the job. His name was Daniel. And when they found him, he didn't run. Didn't fight. He just sat there in that empty apartment with his hands on his knees and his head down. Waiting. Like he knew this day was coming. Like he'd been tired of running. She'd wanted to scream at him. Wanted to hit him. Wanted to demand answers. But when she opened her mouth, nothing came out. So he spoke instead. He told them everything. About the gambling ring he was running on the side. About how Marcus found out. About how Marcus threatened to tell. About how Daniel panicked and made a call to people who didn't ask questions. About how he didn't mean for it to go that far. About how he just wanted Marcus scared. Quiet. But the people he called didn't scare. They erased. And by the time Daniel realized what he'd done, Marcus was already dead. "I'm sorry," he'd whispered. Looking at her. Tears streaming. "I'm so sorry. He was my best friend. I loved him. I panicked. I was stupid. I was scared." She'd stared at him. This man she'd known for years. This man who'd sat at their kitchen table and laughed with her brother and promised to look after her. This man who'd killed him. "Sorry doesn't bring him back," she'd said quietly. And he'd nodded. "I know." The man beside her, the one who'd brought her here, who'd protected her, who'd torn his world apart to find the truth, he'd been silent the whole time. Just watching. Listening. His face unreadable. When Daniel finished talking, when there was nothing left to confess, he finally spoke. "You disobeyed me," he said quietly. Daniel looked up. "I know. I said no. And you went around me. I know. You made me look weak. Made my word meaningless. Made people think they could ignore my orders." Daniel swallowed hard. "I know." Silence. "Then, I should kill you." Elena's breath caught. She looked at him. At the man she'd started to trust. Started to believe wasn't a monster. But his face was cold. Hard. The face of someone who'd made terrible decisions before and would make them again. "But I won't," he continued. Daniel's head snapped up. "What?" "I won't kill you," he repeated. "Because she asked me not to." He looked at Elena. "Didn't you?" She nodded slowly. "I don't want more blood. See?" He looked back at Daniel. "She doesn't want more blood. So you live." Relief flooded Daniel's face. "But," he continued, his voice dropping, "you don't get to stay in my world. You don't get to stay in this city. You don't get to exist anywhere I might see you again." He stepped closer. "You have 24 hours, he said quietly. To disappear. To become someone else. To start over somewhere I'll never find you." Daniel nodded frantically. "Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And if I ever hear your name again," he interrupted, "if you ever come back, if you ever contact her or anyone she knows, I will forget my promise. And I will bury you so deep no one will ever find you." The temperature in the room dropped. "Do you understand?" "Yes," Daniel whispered. "Good." They left him there. In that empty apartment. With 24 hours and a second chance he didn't deserve. And that was the beginning. Over the next few weeks, more names fell. More secrets surfaced. More betrayals came to light. People who'd been using his organization for their own gain. People who'd been skimming. Lying. Breaking rules they thought he wouldn't notice. He noticed everything. And one by one, he cut them out. Not with violence. Not always. Sometimes with exile. Sometimes with public shame. Sometimes with quiet conversations that ended with people packing their bags and never coming back. She watched him do it. Watched him dismantle pieces of the empire he'd built. Watched him sacrifice power for principle. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't easy. And it cost him. She saw it in his face. The exhaustion. The weight. The loneliness of being the person who had to make impossible choices. Some nights she found him in his office at 3 in the morning. Staring at files. Making calls. Trying to figure out who he could still trust. "You should sleep," she'd say. "I will," he'd reply. He never did. She started bringing him coffee. Food he wouldn't eat. Company he didn't ask for but seemed to need. And slowly. Carefully. Something shifted between them. It wasn't fear anymore. Wasn't power. Wasn't obligation. It was choice. She chose to stay. Chose to help. Chose to sit across from him at midnight and listen to him work through problems she didn't fully understand. And he chose to let her. Chose to trust her with information that could destroy him. Chose to be human in front of someone who could have used it against him. When someone tears down their whole world just to protect yours, that's not control. That's sacrifice. Pass this on if you felt that. One night, after weeks of chaos, after the last betrayer had been dealt with, after his empire was smaller but cleaner, he found her in the guest room. She was packing. Not because she wanted to leave. But because she thought she should. He stood in the doorway. Watching. "You're leaving," he said. It wasn't a question. "The debt's gone," she said quietly. "Daniel's gone. The people who wanted to hurt me are gone. I'm safe now." "Yes. So I should go," she continued. "Get back to my life. Stop taking up your space." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "You're right. You're safe now. You can leave." She stopped packing. Looked at him. "But," she asked. "No but," he said. "You're free. Completely free. You can walk out that door and never look back." He leaned against the doorframe. "I won't stop you," he continued. "Won't follow you. Won't call. You wanted freedom. You have it." She should have felt relieved. Should have felt happy. Should have felt like this was the ending she'd been hoping for. But she didn't. She felt empty. "Okay," she said quietly. He nodded. Pushed off the doorframe. Started to leave. "Wait," she said. He stopped. Turned. "Why did you do it?" She asked. "All of it. The investigation. The protection. Burning your empire down to find the truth. Why?" He looked at her for a long time. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said simply. "That's not an answer." "Yes it is." "No," she said. "You've done wrong things before. You've made terrible choices. You've hurt people. Don't pretend you haven't." He didn't deny it. "So why," she continued, "did you choose to do the right thing this time? For me? For Marcus?" He was quiet. Thinking. "Because I'm tired," he said finally. "Of being the person everyone's afraid of. Of living in a world where everyone wants something from me. Where trust is a weakness and mercy is a mistake." He looked at her. "You walked into my life by accident," he said quietly. "And you didn't want anything. You just wanted to be free. And that made me remember something I'd forgotten." "What?" "That freedom is worth fighting for," he said. "Even if it costs you everything." Her chest tightened. "You didn't have to burn it all down," she said. "You could have just let me go. Could have kept your empire intact. Could have protected your power. I could have, he agreed. But then I'd still be the man everyone fears. The man no one trusts. The man who dies alone because he was too afraid to be human. He stepped back into the room. I didn't burn it down for you, he said. I burned it down for me. You just reminded me why it mattered. She stared at him. At this man who'd started as a monster in her mind and somehow became something else entirely. Not a hero. Heroes didn't exist in his world. But human. Flawed. Trying. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say you'll think about staying, he said. Her breath caught. Why would I stay? Because maybe you're tired too, he said quietly. Of running. Of surviving. Of being afraid. He walked closer. Stay because you want to, he said. Not because you're scared. Not because you owe me. But because maybe. Just maybe. You're curious about what happens next. She should have said no. Should have finished packing. Should have walked out that door and never looked back. But she didn't. Because he was right. She was curious. About him. About this strange life she'd stumbled into. About what it meant to choose something instead of running from it. And if I stay, she said slowly, what happens? He smiled. Small. Real. I don't know, he said honestly. But we figure it out together. She looked at her half-packed bag. At the door. At freedom. Then she looked at him. At the man who'd protected her. Who'd burned his world down. Who'd given her a choice when he didn't have to. And she made a decision. She unpacked the bag. Put her clothes back in the drawer. Turned to face him. I'm staying, she said. Relief flooded his face. Just for a second. Then he controlled it. Why? He asked. She walked closer. Close enough to see the exhaustion in his eyes. The scars on his hands. The weight he carried. Because leaving feels like giving up, she said quietly. And I'm tired of giving up. He stared at her. Something vulnerable in his expression. And if I don't want to leave, she asked softly. The question hung between them. Heavy. Loaded. Dangerous. Because they both knew what she was really asking. What if this isn't about protection anymore? What if this is about something else? He reached up slowly. His hand hovering near her face. Not touching. Just there. Then we crossed the line, he whispered. Together. And everything changed. His hand was still hovering near her face. Not touching. Just there. Close enough to feel the heat. Close enough to cross the line. But he didn't. And that told her everything. Ask me, she said quietly. He blinked. What? You heard me, she continued. If you want me to stay. If you want this to be something more than protection and debt and investigation. Then ask me properly. His hand lowered slightly. Uncertainty flickered across his face. She'd never seen him uncertain before. I don't ask, he said quietly. I take. That's who I am. That's how I survive. Then change, she said simply. He stared at her. It's not that simple. Yes it is, she replied. You spent weeks tearing down your empire because you wanted to be better. Wanted to be different. Wanted to be human. She stepped closer. So be human, she whispered. Ask me like you mean it. Ask me like my answer matters. Ask me like you're afraid I'll say no. His jaw tightened. She could see him fighting it. Fighting the instinct to just take what he wanted. To pull her close. To make the decision for both of them. But he didn't. Instead, he took a breath. Let it out slowly. And for the first time since she'd met him, he looked vulnerable. "Elena," he said quietly. Her name sounded different in his mouth. Softer. Real. "I want you to stay," he continued. "Not because I'm protecting you. Not because you owe me. Not because I own you." He paused. "I want you to stay because I choose you," he said. "And I'm hoping you choose me back." Her heart hammered in her chest. "But only if you want to," he added quickly. "Only if this is something you want. Not something you feel obligated to do. Not something you're afraid to say no to." He stepped back. Giving her space. Giving her power. "So I'm asking," he said. "Will you stay? Not as someone I protect. But as someone I—" He stopped. Like the word was too big. Too dangerous. "As someone you what?" she asked softly. He looked at her. Really looked at her. "As someone I care about," he finished quietly. The room was silent except for the sound of the city below. Distant. Muffled. Like the whole world was holding its breath. She could say no. Could walk away. Could take her freedom and never look back. He'd let her. She knew that now. Knew he meant every word. But she didn't want to say no. She wanted something she'd never let herself want before. Something dangerous. Something impossible. She wanted him. Not the power. Not the empire. Not the protection. Him. The man who tried to save her brother. The man who'd listened when no one else would. The man who'd burned his world down because it was the right thing to do. The man who was asking instead of taking. "Yes," she said. Relief flooded his face. "Yes. Yes," she repeated. "I'll stay. I choose you too." He smiled. Real. Unguarded. Beautiful. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For giving me a chance to be better." She closed the distance between them. Slowly. Deliberately. Her hand reached up. Not by accident this time. Not from losing balance or panic or fear. By choice. Her palm pressed against his chest. Right over his heart. She could feel it beating. Fast. Nervous. He was nervous. That made her smile. "You're shaking," she said quietly. His eyes widened slightly. Then he laughed. Soft. Surprised. "I am," he admitted. "Why?" "Because I've never asked before," he said. Never given someone the power to say no. Never cared what the answer was. His hand came up slowly. Covered hers. Warm. Solid. "But I care what yours is," he continued. "I care what you think. What you want. What you choose." He leaned down slightly. Close enough for her to feel his breath. "You have no idea how terrifying that is," he whispered. She understood. Because she felt it too. This strange new power between them. Not his over her. Not hers over him. Shared. Equal. Balanced. "Then be terrified with me," she said. And she pulled him closer. Their lips met. Soft at first. Hesitant. Like they were both testing something fragile. Something new. But then he deepened it. His hand sliding to the back of her neck. Her hands gripping his shirt. And it stopped being hesitant. It became real. Raw. Honest. Not about possession. Not about power. Not about control. About choice. They pulled apart slowly. breathing hard. Foreheads touching. "I've wanted to do that," he said quietly, "since the moment you apologized for touching me." She laughed. "Really?" "Really," he confirmed. "You looked so scared. So brave. So determined to survive." His thumb brushed her cheek. "I thought," he continued, "if I could keep you safe, maybe I could prove I wasn't the monster everyone thinks I am." "You're not," she said firmly. "You don't know what I've done." "I know enough," she replied. "I know you're trying. That's more than most people do." He kissed her again. Slower this time. Softer. Like he was memorizing the moment. When they pulled apart, she realized something. She wasn't afraid anymore. Not of him. Not of his world. Not of what came next. For the first time in months, maybe years, she felt safe. Not because someone was protecting her. But because someone saw her. Really saw her. And chose her anyway. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. He smiled. "I don't know. But we'll figure it out. Together. Together." She leaned into him. His arms wrapped around her. Strong. Steady. Home. They stood there for a long time. Just holding each other. No words needed. The city glowed below. The world kept turning. But in that moment, nothing else mattered. Until the window exploded. Glass shattered inward. The sound deafening. She screamed. He pulled her down. Covered her body with his. Something whistled past them. Hit the wall behind them. A bullet. He was moving before she could process. Pulling her toward the door. Away from the window. "Stay down," he ordered. She did. Her body pressed against the floor. Her heart slamming against her ribs. He grabbed his phone. Made a call. His voice sharp. Commanding. "We're under attack. 5th floor. Now." He hung up. Looked at her. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "No." "What, who?" "I don't know," he said. "But we're about to find out." He moved to the window. Careful. Staying low. Looking out. His expression darkened. "What is it?" she asked. "A car," he said quietly. "Across the street. On fire. Someone shot at us from a burning car." "No," he corrected. "Someone blew up a car to get our attention. The shot came from somewhere else." Her blood ran cold. "A distraction." "Yes." "For what?" He turned to her. His face serious. "Dangerous. For whoever's coming up the stairs right now." Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. Multiple people. His men burst through the door. Armed. Ready. "Secure the building," he ordered. "Find whoever did this. And bring them to me alive." They scattered. Moving with precision. Experience. He turned back to her. Helped her up. "You okay?" She nodded. But her hands were shaking. "I thought it was over," she whispered. "I thought we were safe." He pulled her close. Held her tight. "So did I," he said quietly. "Then who?" "I don't know," he interrupted. "But someone doesn't want me happy. Someone doesn't want me building something real." He pulled back. Looked at her. "Someone's watching," he said. "And they just declared war." Outside, sirens wailed. The city responding. But too slow. Too late. The car across the street burned bright against the night sky. Smoke rising. A message. She looked at him. At the man she'd just chosen. The man she just kissed. The man she just started to trust. "What do we do?" she asked. His jaw set. Determination replacing fear. "We fight back," he said. And she realized. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The city started whispering. Not loud. Not obvious. But whispers have a way of traveling. Of spreading. Of becoming truth whether they started that way or not. They whispered about the Mafia boss who'd changed. About how he'd cleaned house. Cut ties with people who'd been with him for years. Started making decisions that looked like weakness to those who didn't understand. But Elena understood. He wasn't weak. He was precise. He'd stopped ruling through fear and started ruling through respect. Stopped making examples and started making allies. Stopped taking and started asking. And the city noticed. Some people respected it. Saw it as evolution. As strength in a different form. Others saw it as opportunity. Because a man who shows mercy is a man who can be exploited. A man who hesitates is a man who can be destroyed. And there were plenty of people who wanted him destroyed. 3 months had passed since the night someone shot at them. 3 months of rebuilding. Of tightening security. Of hunting for whoever wanted them dead. They never found them. The shooter vanished. The car was stolen. The message was clear but the messenger was gone. And that bothered him more than the attack itself. "Someone's watching," he'd said that night. Waiting for the right moment. He was right. Elena had learned to live with it. The constant awareness. The checking over her shoulder. The sleeping light because deep sleep felt too vulnerable. She'd also learned something else. How to stand. She wasn't the same girl who'd stumbled into that elevator. Who'd knelt in fear. Who'd thought survival meant staying invisible. She stood now. Beside him. Not behind. Not in front. Beside. As an equal. As a partner. As someone who'd earned her place through fire and choice. The organization noticed that too. Some of his men respected her. Listened when she spoke. Treated her like she mattered. Others resented her. Saw her as the reason their boss had gone soft. Blamed her for the changes they didn't understand. She felt their eyes. Their judgment. Their quiet hostility. But she didn't run. Because running was the old Elena. The scared Elena. The Elena who thought she had to be small to survive. This Elena knew better. They didn't save each other. She understood that now. He didn't rescue her. She didn't fix him. They chose each other. Every day. Every moment. Every time it would have been easier to walk away. They chose this. Together. But choices have consequences. And theirs was coming. She felt it before he said anything. Felt it in the way he looked at his phone. In the way conversations stopped when she entered rooms. In the way his jaw tightened when he thought she wasn't looking. "Something's wrong," she said one night. They were in his office. Their office now. She'd claimed the chair by the window. Her space in his world. He looked up from his desk. "What makes you say that?" "Because you're lying to me." He froze. "I'm not." "Yes you are," she interrupted. "Not with words. But with silence. You're hiding something." He stared at her. Weighing his options. Then he sighed. Closed his laptop. Gave her his full attention. "You're right," he admitted. "I am." "Why?" "Because I don't want you to worry." "Too late," she said. I'm already worried. So tell me. What's happening? He stood. Walked to the window. Looked out at the city they'd been trying to rebuild together. Old ghosts, he said quietly. People I cut out. People who don't like the new version of me. What do they want? What they always wanted, he replied. Power. Control. The old ways. He turned to face her. They're organizing, he continued. Quietly. Carefully. Building alliances. Waiting for the right moment to strike. Her stomach tightened. How long have you known? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Her voice rose. And you didn't tell me? I was handling it. We handle things together, she said firmly. That was the deal. No more secrets. No more protecting me from the truth. He looked guilty. I know. I wanted to keep you safe. I'm safer when I know what's coming, she countered. Ignorance doesn't protect me. It makes me vulnerable. He nodded slowly. You're right. I'm sorry. She walked to him. Stood beside him at the window. Tell me everything, she said. So he did. He told her about the faction forming. About the people who wanted him gone. About the threats. The whispers. The warnings. He told her they wanted the old him back. The ruthless one. The one who didn't ask questions or show mercy. And when he refused, they decided to remove him. They're coming, he said quietly. Soon. And when they do, it won't be subtle. What do we do? We prepare, he said. We tighten security. We move you somewhere safe. No, she interrupted. He looked at her. Elena. No, she repeated. I'm not hiding. I'm not running. We face this together. This isn't your fight. Yes it is, she said firmly. Because they're not just coming for you. They're coming for what you represent. For the change you're trying to make. For the proof that people like you can be better. She grabbed his hand. And I won't let them take that, she said. I won't let them win. He stared at her. Something shifted in his expression. Pride. Love. Fear. You could die, he said quietly. So could you. I'm used to that risk. Then I'll get used to it too. Some love stories aren't about happy endings. They're about choosing to fight for each other anyway. If this hit you, don't keep it to yourself. He pulled her close. Held her tight. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Probably not, she agreed. But you're stuck with me anyway. He laughed. Soft. Tired. This isn't over, he said. Even if we survive this attack, there will be others. There will always be people who want to pull me back. Who see change as weakness. Then we keep fighting, she said simply. For how long? As long as it takes. He kissed the top of her head. You're sure about this? About us? About this life? She pulled back. Looked him in the eye. I've never been more sure of anything, she said. And she meant it. Because 3 months ago, she was running. From debt. From fear. From life. Now she was standing. Fighting. Choosing. And that made all the difference. The next 2 weeks were tense. Waiting. Watching. Preparing. His men doubled security. Set up checkpoints. Monitored communications. Elena learned how to shoot. How to defend herself. How to think strategically. She wasn't just the girl he protected anymore. She was his partner. His ally. His equal. And the organization saw it. Some respected it. Others hated it. But everyone noticed. The city kept whispering. About the Mafia boss who'd gone soft. About the woman who'd changed him. About how power was shifting in ways no one expected. And somewhere in those whispers, someone was listening. Someone who didn't like what they heard. Someone who decided it was time to act. It happened on a Tuesday. Elena was walking back from a meeting. 3 of his men with her. Standard security. She felt it before she saw it. That prickle on the back of her neck. That sense of being watched. She stopped. Looked around. The street was normal. People walking. Cars passing. Nothing unusual. But something felt wrong. "We need to move," one of the guards said. "Now." They started walking faster. Toward the car. Toward safety. That's when she saw him. Standing across the street. Staring at her. A man in a dark coat. Face partially hidden. But familiar. Impossibly familiar. Her breath caught. No. It couldn't be. He was dead. She'd been to his funeral. She'd watched them lower the casket. She'd grieved. But he was standing right there. Watching her. Marcus. Her brother. Alive. Her knees went weak. The world tilted. Sound became distant. One of the guards grabbed her arm. "Ma'am. Are you okay?" She couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Couldn't process what she was seeing. The man across the street smiled. Slow. Deliberate. Then he turned and disappeared into the crowd. "Wait," she shouted. "Stop him." But he was gone. Like he was never there at all. The guards looked at her with concern. "Who? What did you see?" She stared at the empty space where he'd been standing. "My brother," she whispered. "I saw my brother." "Ma'am, your brother is." "I know what he is," she interrupted. Her voice shaking. "I know he's supposed to be dead." She looked at the guard. "But I just saw him." They got her back to the building. Fast. Secure. He was waiting when she arrived. Saw her face. Knew something was wrong. What happened? She told him. About the man. About Marcus. About the impossible. He listened. His expression darkening with every word. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "You're sure it was him?" he asked finally. "Yes. Elena." "I know how it sounds," she interrupted. "I know it doesn't make sense. But I know what I saw. I know my own brother." He pulled out his phone. Made a call. "Pull the footage from 5th and Main. 15 minutes ago. I need to see everyone in a 3-block radius." He hung up. Looked at her. "If he's alive," he said quietly, "then everything we thought we knew is wrong." Her chest tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means someone's been lying," he said. "About the funeral. About the body. About everything." His jaw set. "And if Marcus is alive," he continued, "then the question isn't who killed him." He met her eyes. "The question is why he let everyone think he was dead." And Elena's world shattered for the 3rd time. Marcus wasn't dead. That truth rewrote everything. The funeral was staged. The body wasn't his. The grief was real, but the death was a lie. And when they finally found him, when they cornered him in an apartment on the edge of the city, he didn't run. He sat there waiting. Like he knew they'd come eventually. Elena walked in first. Against his warnings. Against every instinct that told her to stay back. But she needed to see him. Needed to hear the truth from his mouth. Marcus looked older. Tired. Like living a lie had aged him faster than time ever could. Elena, he said quietly. She stared at him. Her brother. Alive. Real. Why? She whispered. He looked down. Because I had to. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. She stepped closer. Anger rising. You let me think you were dead. You let me grieve. You let me take on your debt. You let me suffer. I know. And that's all you have to say? He looked up. Eyes wet. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But if they knew I was alive, they would have killed you too. Her breath caught. What? The gambling wasn't just gambling, he said. I was laundering money. For people bigger than Daniel. Bigger than the Volkovs. Bigger than anyone. He stood slowly. And I was about to testify, he continued. About to bring down an entire network. About to expose people who don't get exposed. His voice cracked. So they gave me a choice, he said. Disappear and keep you safe. Or testify and watch you die. Silence. I chose you, he whispered. I chose to let everyone think I was dead so you could live. Elena's legs gave out. She sat hard. The man beside her, the one who'd protected her, who'd loved her, who'd torn his world apart, he stepped forward. Where have you been? He asked quietly. Marcus looked at him. Recognition flickering. Witness protection. Federal. They moved me. Changed my name. Gave me a new life. And the debt? Was supposed to disappear with me, Marcus said. But Daniel panicked. Started using my name. Started collecting in ways he wasn't supposed to. The Volkovs didn't know I was gone. They just knew someone owed them money. He looked at Elena. I didn't know they transferred it to you until it was too late, he said. By then I couldn't come back. Couldn't risk exposing you. Couldn't do anything except watch from a distance and hope you'd survive. Tears streamed down her face. You've been watching me. Since the beginning, he admitted. I saw you take the job at the palazzo. Saw you walk in scared. Saw you leave with him. He gestured toward the man beside her. And I knew, he continued quietly, that maybe you'd be okay. That maybe I'd made the right choice. She stood. Walked to her brother. And slapped him. Hard. He didn't flinch. Just took it. You don't get to make choices for me, she said. Her voice shaking. You don't get to decide my life without asking. You don't get to play hero and leave me to pick up the pieces. I know. No you don't, she said. Because if you did, you would have told me. Would have trusted me. Would have given me the choice. She stepped back. I thought you were dead, she whispered. I grieved you. I cried for you. I blamed myself for not seeing the signs. For not saving you. Her voice broke. And you were alive the whole time. Marcus's face crumpled. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She wanted to hate him. Wanted to scream. Wanted to make him hurt the way she'd hurt. But she couldn't. Because he was her brother. And he'd made an impossible choice. The wrong choice. But made for the right reasons. The people you were going to testify against, the man beside her said. Are they still a threat? Marcus nodded. Yes. But the case is almost ready. The feds are moving in. Another few weeks and they'll all be arrested. And then? Then I'm free, Marcus said. We're both free. Elena looked at him. At her brother who'd died and lived. Who'd sacrificed everything and gained nothing. I can't forgive you yet, she said quietly. Not right now. Maybe not for a long time. He nodded. I understand. But I'm glad you're alive, she continued. Even if I'm angry. Even if I don't know how to feel. I'm glad you're not actually dead. Something broke in his expression. Relief. Grief. Hope. Thank you, he whispered. She turned away. Walked back to the man who'd become her home. He took her hand. Squeezed gently. Let's go, he said quietly. They left Marcus there. Alive. Safe. But alone. And as they walked out, Elena realized something.